right, it looks like we have people on. We'll start, and more people are joining the reading room, I see as well, so this is great. But welcome everyone. So you are seeing a whiteboard right now. This is just a quick, fun icebreaker before we get started. So if you haven't used this before, you can see the chat for some instructions. But if you go up to the top of your screen, you'll see view options right next to you are viewing Bianca's Friends of the Earth screen, and you'll see an annotate option. So if you click that, it will allow you to add a text box, to add some drawing, kind of like how paint works. And you can write some fun things like, what's one food that you would eat for the rest of your life if you only had one option? So we'll go ahead and get started with that. If we can, just try to think of, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Add that onto our whiteboard and we can get our participation muscles warmed up. All right, I see some people, I see some test runs here. So again, you go to the top of your screen, view options, click annotate, and it will allow you to participate in this. Tacos, yes. That's awesome. Mine would definitely be burritos if I had to choose one. Oh, this is great. All right, so again, if you go to the top of your screen for those who just joined and you click annotate, under view options, you'll be able to participate in our whiteboard. And there's a text option as well in case that's easier than drawing. Awesome. This is great. So welcome everyone. So again, you'll see instructions here. I love the participation so far. And before we jump to the next slide, we'll keep this up for another minute just to let everyone have some participation. But we do welcome you. This is the first webinar of our 4-part series, and we're gonna have our welcome slide up in just about 30 more seconds or so. Oh, udon soup, I love it. But yeah, today, as you can see, we're hoping to have an interactive webinar session. So we'd love for you to get warmed up by participating in this annotation whiteboard activity. We also encourage folks to add their organization next to their name, if possible, under your profile, so we can get an idea of who's all on our webinar and who's going to be participating in future chat box functions and our group discussions that we're going to be having. All right, this is awesome. I love it. Fruit salad potatoes. That one's solid in the winter. All right, thank you so much, guys. So we'll go ahead and jump to our first slide. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. All right. Awesome. So again, welcome everyone. And today's webinar is going to be a very interactive one. We like to ask you all to participate with a Q&A in our chat box as we go throughout today's session. You're going to hear from multiple speakers, and we'd love to hear from you on what questions come to your mind as you hear our speakers talk. Again, this is the first webinar of our 4-part series on healthy, climate-friendly school food. And we're so excited to have you here for our first webinar series, which is Organic, Plant-Forward, Scratch-Cooked School Meals. Is it possible? We're going to learn that today. Is it possible? We'll find out. Let's go on to the next slide, please. All right, so this is a snapshot of our webinar series. I'm Elizabeth Vaughn. I'll be your MC for today, and I'm so excited to have you here with us. And we are going to have 3 more webinars scheduled throughout early 2021. So you'll see here we have our next one on January 13th, January 27th, and February 10th. And we hope that you'll join us on these future topics as well. Next slide, please. All right, so we are hosting this 4-part webinar series to provide inspiration, resources, and support to California school districts for starting or increasing procurement of climate-friendly cuisine for their school meal programs. And as COVID-19 continues to impact our communities, we hope for this series to add to the support and resources being made to school districts across California and our country. So going to the next Oh, so you're on there. Thank you, Bianca. So during today's webinar, in addition to these learning objectives that you see here, which outlines what we'll be learning throughout this series, for today's webinar, we're going to be learning in particular about the benefits of organic food and farming and how that ties into climate-friendly cuisine. We'll hear from a nonprofit partner, Turning Green, on the Conscious Kitchen model and how West Contra Costa Unified School District has adopted that model and how it's impacted their programs, even with COVID on the plate. We'll also be having a breakout room discussion, which you'll be able to talk with your peers about strategies that you heard and how these may be implemented in your communities. And we'll have lots of Q&A opportunities with you as a participant. So please add those questions in the chat box as they come up. And we'll also discuss funding opportunities and available resources, and also end with your USDA professional credit slide. So we'll get started here. Next slide, please. So who are we? So in case you haven't heard of Friends of the Earth, I'm the Senior School Food Specialist at Friends of the Earth. And we have a team of other staff and consultants on this webinar today to help support you on this journey towards climate-friendly cuisine. But Friends of the Earth is a nonprofit working on multiple campaigns regarding our environment. And we have a climate-friendly food program within all of our campaigns. And within that climate-friendly food program, we have a school food program where we envision a food system for our schools that's healthy, sustainable, and just. And we help school districts and their communities create and promote healthy, climate-friendly menus that are dietarily and culturally appropriate for all students. So that's a bit about us. To highlight some of the resources that we've provided to school districts, so we've helped numerous school districts across the country shift towards climate-friendly food service. And we do this through direct support, research, and policy. That's local policy, local food policy, state policy, and up to the federal level as well. So here's just a snapshot of some of the reports that we have that we've provided to school districts. And those links should be provided in the chat. So you can click them and learn more about these resources that we provide to school districts. And they'll also be sent in the follow-up email. And, oh, I'm sorry, if you could please go back. We also have to the previous slide, and we have more resources on the way. So throughout this webinar series, we're going to be sharing a roadmap for school districts on procuring and serving organic school food. And there's going to be available technical support provided from one of our consultants. So we hope that you'll join the rest of the webinar series so you can learn more about these resources as they become available. And we're really excited to share those with you. And in a couple minutes, we're going to launch a poll for all participants to add if you'd like to be contacted by us in the future to receive more one-on-one direct technical support around climate-friendly cuisine. So keep an eye out for that in a couple minutes. That's a bit about us. I'd love to share a bit more about who you are. We have over 300 people who have registered, or nearly 300 people who have registered for this webinar. So we're so excited to have you on the call today. We know you range from majority of school district nutrition staff, so welcome. We also have nonprofit partners, government partners, and community members, parents, and others on this call today. Next slide, please. And before we jump into the subject matter, I just want to say a bit more about who you are as school nutrition staff. You are champions who are keeping our communities fed, and we can't thank you enough for your efforts throughout the last 9 months with COVID, from all the federal policy changes to regional supply chain shortages, to keeping a team of staff stable and healthy. What you have all achieved is truly amazing, and we are honored that you're taking the time to join this webinar series on climate-friendly cuisine to learn more about it, and we look forward to being of service to you for this journey. Next slide, please. So, climate-friendly cuisine, what is it? Some of you maybe know a lot about climate-friendly cuisine. Maybe you've heard me talk about it at conferences or at other meetings, but here's just a quick visual to get you ready to learn more. These are 3 dishes from 3 of your school district peers across California. We have a tofu marinara, taco salad, and a 3-bean chili. Next slide, please. So what exactly is climate-friendly cuisine? It's food service practices and meals that have a low carbon and water footprint, and these involve a lot of plant-based and plant-forward meals, which I'll share a bit more about why that is in a minute. Climate-friendly cuisine are meals that are produced, or food service practices, farming practices, production that use organic farming practices that sequester carbon in our soil, So organic is very heavily tied to climate-friendly. And it's also food that does not end up in our landfill. And this includes packaging, distribution. We know a lot of you are struggling right now with getting, packaging materials that aren't all single-use plastics. So we know this is important for you as well, and it's also tying in with climate-friendly cuisine. So each webinar will feature speakers who will share a bit more about why this is important and how climate-friendly food practices can be implemented. So we're planning to offer a wide selection of examples for you all to see how this works on the ground in California. All right, so why climate-friendly cuisine? There are multiple reasons for adopting climate-friendly cuisine practices. School districts across California alone are serving nearly 1 billion meals a year. So shifting those purchasing dollars can make a tremendous difference for the health of our planet and the health of our kids. And there are lots of health benefits tied to plant-rich diets, and that's reflected in these market trends that you see here on this slide. We see tremendous growth in the demand for plant-rich diets. We see the generations that are coming up who are starting to have children, who are going into your school systems to start eating more plant-based diets. So you're probably seeing this, and I've heard from a lot of you that the demand for vegetarian, vegan meals is increasing across your school districts. Food is an impactful climate mitigation strategy. When we break down the greenhouse gas emissions from different food items, and this is a chart that just highlights some of those differences, you can see that between a beef and an apple, and it's a little small, so hopefully you can see that, there's a tremendous difference in the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that's tied to those food products. And then there's also less and better meat. That's an important strategy as well. So organic beef and conventional beef are two different things, and we'll learn a bit more about that throughout the series. So plant-rich diets, food waste reductions, well-managed grazing practices, organic and regenerative agriculture practices are often major overlooked solutions to climate change. And to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, we must dramatically shift what we eat and how we produce our food. So you'll learn more about some of the practices that are happening on the ground. You'll hear about funding opportunities that are also prioritizing climate-friendly cuisine at the end of this webinar, including the California Farm to School state funds that are going to be launched next year. And there's also lots of school districts on the ground too. Even with COVID going on, they're still adopting values-based procurement that reflect climate-friendly cuisine practices, such as Mount Diablo, who's moved forward with adopting the Eat Real certification, or Escondido Union School District, who has moved forward with adopting a food purchasing program. And these are programs that we'd love to help connect you with if you're interested. So we'd love to have you respond to that poll question with your interest in receiving follow-up. All right, next slide, please. So again, more climate-friendly cuisine photos from districts that highlight what is possible, even with COVID going on. These are all food products that have happened over the last 6 months. We have an organic lentil burger featured here that's sourced from Kandarian Farms, which is an organic farmer. San Luis Coastal, thank you for making this amazing photo available and serving this amazing meal to your students. This lentil burger has 16 times fewer greenhouse gas emissions and uses 60% less water when compared to a beef burger. This is just one example of the impact that climate-friendly cuisine can make for one meal option that's swapped out. In the bottom of that postcard, you see lentil tacos and lentil Frito pie that's also served by our school districts. And then on the right is a photo of Alicia. She has been providing handcrafted tamales to Vacaville Unified and several other districts. These are plant-forward, plant-rich options, supporting a local business, and she's doing individual wrapped or case shipments based off school district needs during COVID. So this is just a quick look at what's going on. We'd love, again, please respond to this poll question. We'd love to stay in touch with you on your interests and see how we can support you on these efforts in the future. So now I would like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Kendra Klein, who's the staff scientist at Friends of the Earth, and she'll be teaching us about the benefits of organic production and consumption. So welcome, Kendra, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to answer the question, why organic? And looks like it's not showing my slides. Let me try one more time so that I can advance them. So as many of you know, we are made up of the food we eat. If you think about the breakfast or the lunch that you ate today, that food is becoming you. We are made up of zinc from lentils and iron from leafy greens. But as eaters of the modern industrial food system, we are also made up of a host of pesticides and other chemicals. We use over 1 billion pounds of pesticides in agriculture in the US every year. And many of those are linked to a whole range of serious health problems. As you can see here, these are pesticide residues that are found on apples alone, coming out of USDA data. You can look up many different foods at whatsonmyfood.org. It's a wonderful resource put together by Pesticide Action Network. We know pesticide regulations don't adequately protect our health, and our children face the highest risk. And that's because infants in utero, babies in utero, infants and children's bodies, as well as adolescents, are rapidly developing. And so even very small exposures can have lifetime impacts. And of course, farm workers are the people on the front lines suffering the greatest health risks. These same pesticides that harm us also harm pollinators and other biodiversity. And we know that pollinators are in very steep decline, and they are the basis of so much of our food system. 1 in 3 bites of food we eat rely on them. Biodiversity loss is a crisis on par with climate change, according to a recent report. And so one of the main drivers we know, along with habitat loss, is pesticide use. And farmers are not really winning in this system either. They are on a pesticide treadmill. I find this poll of Iowa farmers really compelling, that 90% said that pest management is a never-ending technology treadmill. And despite our increasing use of pesticides, farmers are losing more of their crops to pests today than they did in the 1940s, according to some analyses. And that's because nature evolves. Insects and weeds rapidly develop resistance to pesticides that we use ubiquitously. So the good news is we have the solution. And I've really entered this through the lens of pesticides. I think that it's the reason why many people are excited about organic agriculture, but I'm going to tell you why it's so much more than that. You can learn all sorts of information. We've got great citations at organicforall.org, looking through the lens of individual health, farmers, farm workers, and communities, and pollinators in the environment. So I'm going to start here with individual exposure to pesticides. And these are results from a peer-reviewed study that Friends of the Earth co-authored. Again, you can find this study at organicforall.org. And what you're seeing is 4 families from across the country who we had eat a completely non-organic diet for 1 week, and then a completely organic diet for 1 week. And we tested their bodies, we tested their urine. They kindly collected it for us every morning for a whole set of pesticides. And you're seeing the top 4 drops per family. But everything we tested for and found dropped dramatically in just 6 days. So we know that organic dramatically reduces exposure to pesticides. We did a follow-up study this year on glyphosate specifically, and that is the active ingredient in Roundup, which is a weed killer that many of you probably know. And we found, you can see from conventional levels, dramatic drop as soon as folks switched to an organic diet. So organic works. And how is it that organic farmers are achieving that? How are they growing abundant food without pesticides, without synthetic fertilizers? It's because they are working with natural systems rather than against them. And so this is just a snapshot of the types of methods that organic growers use to sort of take advantage of what we sometimes call ecosystem services, the ways that ecosystems can function to really help us. So we know that organic diets are associated with health benefits. The past couple of years, there's been exciting data coming out. The top is a meta-analysis finding that higher consumption of organic food is associated with reduced risk of a whole set of health harms. reduced risk of cancer and diabetes, as well as improved fertility outcomes. We know organic farming is good for the birds and bees. I focused here just on pollinators, but there's great data showing that organic agriculture, because it reduces their exposure to toxic pesticides and because it often is providing habitat, places for pollinators and insects to live and eat. It can really support pollinator populations. And those same organic solutions are climate solutions. So those practices that I listed, really the fundamental principle there is building healthy soil. And that grows healthy plants that can better resist pest pressure. And that healthy soil also can draw more carbon down out of the atmosphere, where it's a problem, where it's driving climate change, into the soil, where it's a solution. The soil can be a carbon sink. And that carbon-rich soil also conserves more water. Healthy living soil can act like a sponge. And that really helps farmers cope with climate change. The soil retains moisture when there's droughts, and it soaks in the excess water when there are floods. So all of this together means that we've got so many solutions bundled into one when we can support organic growers. I always think this is a great graph to just visually compare. On the left is conventional, on the right is organic. And this was a meta-analysis of a very large set of studies. And what you're seeing is the organic system is more balanced across worker safety because of reduction in exposure to pesticides, nutritional quality, yield, soil quality, et cetera, than the conventional system. And I want to draw your attention also to those red bars, because what you're seeing there is not only is it a benefit for eaters and workers and the environment, it's a benefit for farmers. It's more profitable for farmers. Their total costs are reduced. They're not having to buy expensive inputs. And the ecosystem is working for them. That long bar on ecosystem services means that the birds and the bees and the soil are working with the farmer. So you might say that is all well and good, but can organic, quote, feed the world? And I've put that idea of feeding the world into quotation marks because so often hunger is a result of inequality, the lack of democracy, a lack of economic means, rather than an actual lack of food. Many analyses show we have enough food already to feed a growing world population. So these are some major independent reports that come to that conclusion. I've circled one that is a Friends of the Earth report. And what these reports all say is actually to feed the world sustainably into the future, we need to shift towards organic and other ecological forms of farming. That is the necessary future. So we at Friends of the Earth are working hard to expand people's understanding of organic. It often has this tarnish of elitism. And it is true that organic food often costs more. And that is because it is reflecting the true costs of production. Organic farmers are not subsidized in the way that pesticide-intensive conventional farmers are. We could flip that whole policy system on its head, and hopefully someday we will. But we are strong advocates of organic being a human right. As one of the moms in our study said, everyone has the right to clean organic food. And lifting it up as a social justice solution. This is Rudy Arredondo, who's the president of the National Latino Farmers and Ranchers Association. And he says, choosing organic food protects the health and well-being of the people who make our food possible, farm workers and farmers. So we have a short social media video about the study that also touches on these larger points. You can find it at organicforall.org, and we would love if you shared it. We've got over 500,000 views so far and growing. And I will leave you there and look forward to answering any questions later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kendra. We are so lucky to have Kendra on today's session. She really is an expert in this topic of organic the production of it, the consumption of it, how it impacts the human body as well as our environment. So want to provide a minute for anyone to ask any questions to Kendra. Please ask in the chat. If you're having issues with chat, we can do a raise hand function, but we'd love to see any questions get added to the chat at this time while we have Kendra's presentation fresh in our mind. And Kendra will be available throughout the rest of the webinar as well if people have additional questions. So any questions, anyone? All right, I see a couple coming through. All right, so Kendra, if you can see these, we see one. How does food access connect to climate change? That looks like is that question. And how can we help this movement expand?
So how can we help it expand? There's so many fronts that we are working on and need to be working on. As I said, our policy system is backwards. It is subsidizing and incentivizing pesticide intensive and climate destructive environmentally harmful agriculture. And so we are working at the state and federal level and need many people to be loud about the need to shift our policy system so that it supports ecological farming. At the same time, all of the work that's happening in schools, in hospitals, in public institutions to educate people about the importance of healthy and sustainable food and to make that food available is so critical. And we also work, if you go to Bee Friendly Retailer Scorecard, if you Google that, we've got a scorecard grading the 25 largest US food retailers on how they're doing on organic and pesticides through the lens of pollinator health, but of course, same pesticides that matter to us. So many fronts that we can be working on. Yes, I absolutely can share my presentation. Hopefully Elizabeth can make that happen for you. Somebody asked, let's see, what labels to look for. That is an interesting question. There's a lot of confusion out there. I have friends who, will buy me a treat and they'll say, look, it's non-GMO because it's non-GMO verified. And I will say, you know what? That says nothing about synthetic fertilizer or pesticides or, antibiotics or growth hormones used for livestock. It just says it's non-GMO, and it's often on foods for which there's no genetic engineering to begin with. So the beauty is organic is always non-GMO, and it is so many other things as well. And so I really encourage people to trust the organic label is a very robust label. It's backed by a federal regulation and has a very transparent process around it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we have lots more questions coming through, so we'll make sure to capture these and address them as much as we can in future Q&A, but for now, we'll have to move on to our next presenter. So thank you so much, Kendra. I love the questions that are coming through, so our team of support partners here on this call will help to address all these questions, and we'll also share resources and our follow-up email to folks that also provide more information that are related to these questions. So thank you so much, Kendra, for your time. We'll now be going to the next slide, which is introducing one of our partners who will be presenting today. This is Judy and Barbara. So Judy's with Turning Green, and Barbara with the Director of Food Services at West Contra Costa Unified School District will be presenting to us next. And Judy is going to talk to us about a model, the Conscious Kitchen model that has been able to provide 100% organic, scratch-cooked, and plant-forward meals from low-waste kitchens to the participating school sites. And this webinar in particular today is going to feature this presentation, which is one example of many that we can turn to find inspiration and strategies that may work in our district. We know that every district and community is different with different challenges and available resources. And so the strategies highlighted here today, we're not saying, please adopt this entire model, but we think there can be one or two strategies that you'll glean that may be able to get applied to your district and that you'll be able to talk more through during your breakout session in small groups. So that's what's to come. And we're going to have other districts sharing other models that have worked for them in the next webinar on January 13th. So I'd love Judy to take it away from here and to share with us more on the Conscious Kitchen model and how it's been successful with her school districts that they've worked with.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Friends of the Earth. Feeding children well creates healthier people. Fresh, local, organic food, as we've just heard, benefits lands, economies, and farmers. Transforming meals transforms community for the better. Conscious Kitchen works. I'm here to share with you a bit about our journey with the organization I founded and have run for 8 years, and our proof of concept of the values-based, climate-friendly, scratch-cooked, plant-forward, low-waste model on a larger scale with a just-released study in collaboration with Friends of the Earth. Next. Conscious Kitchen partners with schools to transform school meals based on 5 foundational criteria: fresh, local, organic, seasonal, nutritious. The acronym is FLOSSN. Our moral compass is firmly set on the idea that we can make the choice to serve organic meals to our children in schools grown and harvested in our local communities, and ensuring that the most vulnerable among us have access to real healthy nutrition, especially in districts where many students live below the poverty line, like the one in which we began in August 2013, based on MLK Academy in Marin City. Next. Marin City is a historically marginalized community where 100% of students qualify for government-subsidized free and reduced meals. We replaced prepackaged heat and serve conventional food with chef-prepared, scratch-cooked, low-waste, FLOSSN meals made from 100% certified organic ingredients in partnership with local farmers, ranchers, food purveyors, school districts, and community stakeholders to directly benefit our children, transforming dining halls into hubs for health, food literacy, and community engagement. Next. In 2015, we expanded to Willow Creek Academy in Sausalito to become the first certified organic district in the nation. Next. In 2018, we completed a successful pilot, next, at Perry's Elementary School in the West Contra Costa Unified District, comprised of 30,000 children. Next. Having served almost 750,000 meals with our self-sustaining Conscious Kitchen model, we teach, train, and mentor, building long-term lasting capacity within the schools themselves, and develop supply chains, menus, and recipes to make this program scalable, which is critical to shift paradigms, improve health outcomes, expand organic agriculture, and combat food insecurity. Next. The current industrial food system harms our next generation, families, soil, economies, communities, and our future. The bulk of food is grown with a cocktail of pesticides, chronic exposure that is unnecessary and perilous, particularly from young, small, developing bodies. Tens of millions of young people across this nation face serious diet nutrition crises, bearing chronic illness, health problems, attention issues, and diseases that plague children for the rest of their lives and burden our health system. In reality, cheap meals come with a host of hidden costs to the environment, public health, social equity, even life expectancy. We have an opportunity to intervene through our procurement decisions in dollars, especially in California, with unprecedented funding allocation, political will, and widespread support for farm-to-school food, not to mention the plethora of organic farms in our midst. Conscious Kitchen has a 3-pronged approach: building demonstration models that prove possible, engaging collaboratives to stand together for growth and sustainability, and gathering critical research to fortify our model. This is what I will focus on today with a groundbreaking report, next, which we have just released with our partners at Friends of the Earth: organic, plant-forward, scratch-cooked school meals, a California case study. Next. Let's start with the 5 strategies that are detailed in the report that the Conscious Kitchen has used to help food service directors, staff, and districts integrate elements of the model into school food programs, including lessons learned in broader context about the health, ecological, economic, and social justice benefits of transforming school food. We see these as key investments. As we dig into these strategies and learnings at this moment in time, we know that things have changed a lot. I've witnessed daily the fact that values-based procurement and practices don't need to disappear in times of crisis, but rather it gives us the opportunity to innovate and lay some new groundwork through these unforeseen times. You will hear more about some transformational work that my friend Barbara Jellison is leading in West Contra Costa right after me next. Strategy 1, I want to share the learnings of each of the 5 strategies, starting with this one. In order to serve fresh, local, organic, plant-forward, scratch-cooked meals, districts need to invest in equipment and full-time workforce. When we started the Conscious Kitchen program at Perry's Elementary, we didn't have all the necessary kitchen equipment by a long shot. But through innovation, teamwork, key donations and purchases, and the incredible support of the district's food service director and central kitchen staff, we were able to prepare most of the meal components for breakfast and lunch daily on site, with the lunch entree preparation done at the central kitchen. By spring, with trained staff and additional equipment, we were able to produce 100% of our meals in the Perry's kitchen. Next. At our year-end Perry's gathering, a highlight was hearing from a longtime district employee, Teresa, that she hoped she would be able to work in the Conscious Kitchen at Perry's for the rest of her career. She felt honored by her work and enjoyed sitting at lunch with her team daily after her shift was over, enjoying the food that they had prepared from scratch. Next, and the best news of all, the kids see the positive difference and they approved. Next. Strategy 2. In California, where we run Conscious Kitchen's 100% organic school meal programs, we have an abundance of organic food grown on organic farms available year-round, fostering a competitive marketplace that allows school food service programs to negotiate better prices. We've developed strong relationships with our farmers who want to support our schools and benefit from the large-scale, year-long, consistent single location orders. When the food service director at West Contra Costa Unified saw the quality of our food as it often came through the central kitchen en route to Perry's, she grew more and more interested in finding ways to purchase from the same farmers and vendors that we were. Next. One day, she asked about purchasing strawberries from our Conscious Kitchen strawberry farmer for the whole district. In talking pricing, we discovered that our pricing for organic was actually less than hers for conventional. Next. These kinds of discussions underscore the importance of partnerships for solutions that benefit all: school district budgets, student health, the environment, and our greatest asset, our local organic farmers. Next. Strategy 3. When tasked with addressing budget cuts, Conscious Kitchen staff discovered that Willow Creek Academy could save around $10,000 per year by swapping out some beef-based meals. Portions of savings could be applied to the purchase of organic ingredients and better quality meats. Though bringing students and staff along in this journey is pivotal to ensure that it works. Otherwise, money and resources are wasted. For example, when plant-forward meals were first introduced at Perry's, school lunch participation declined. So our team engaged students in taste tests, adapted meals to fit cultural preferences, and educated students and school staff on the benefits of plant-forward meals. These strategies ultimately led to more students eating the meals. Next. And Perry's, who had originally served a nacho rice and bean dish as a plant-based meal, got some negative feedback from students. So we went back to Teresa again, a West Contra Costa Unified School District food service worker, and asked her to develop her Spanish rice recipe that added flavor and familiarity, making it way more popular. And swapping this one burger for the rice dish is equivalent to taking 63 cars off the road or planting 5,900 trees. Plant-forward food helps the planet tremendously. Next. Strategy 4, reduce food and packaging waste. At Perry's, we introduced the milk machine, filled it with 5-gallon bags of local Straus organic milk, which the kids couldn't get enough of. And the Conscious Kitchen ambassadors, students committed to weekly meetings and daily tasks in the dining hall, wheeled around the carts of milk from table to table, building their own leadership skills along the way. The goal of the milk machine was to empower young leaders, reduce waste, and reduce cost. At year end, the amount of money spent on the purchase of organic milk was exactly the same as it had been 1 year before for conventional milk in the same school. During our Conscious Kitchen pilot, next, please. During our Conscious Kitchen pilot, we reduced food and packaging waste by 62% in 1 year. And with just one milk machine, we checked 3 of the 5 strategies: reducing food and packaging waste, utilizing our organic supply chain, and educating, elevating, and engaging students. which brings me to the last strategy, next. Educate and engage students and community. The walls of our Conscious Kitchen dining halls are adorned with life-size posters of produce with fun facts about health and nutrition, photos of local farmers, chefs, students themselves with healthy food. Cooking classes with our chefs and school gardens are also great hands-on experiential learning opportunities. Students learn about ecosystems, soil, climate, sustainable ag, wellness, food justice, and more as they step up to be our next generation of change makers. Next. Conscious Kitchen ambassadors are integral to our program, ensuring ongoing student involvement, feedback, and buy-in. They rise as valued team members and emerging young leaders on a daily basis, outfitted in aprons and chef coats, and as well attending weekly meetings alongside staff and guest leaders to learn and be listened to. Next. When unforeseen circumstances are upon us, or an entire year of them in this case, it is not only our responsibility to innovate, but also to create opportunities to do better in the moment and forge ahead. While the economic effects of the pandemic will make investing in healthier school food service more difficult, it also highlights the critical importance of such investments. Next. Like everyone, Conscious Kitchen has been forced to adapt. And through that process, the economic and community benefits of the model have become even more clear. When schools first closed in mid-March, we scaled up operations to not only feed students, but also families, many of whom had lost jobs, older adults, and other community members in need, serving over 65,000 scratch-cooked Flossen meals with ingredients purchased through our local organic supply chain. This not only ensured access to quality nutrition and alleviated some of the financial burden of food costs amid COVID, but also proved a lifeline for chefs and teams in kitchens who retain jobs, for supply chain and farmers facing uncertainty, and for community employment in new delivery and distribution positions. Next. Engagement and education is the heart of what we do, central to our mission and work with students, teachers, admin, districts, parents, businesses, everyone. We learn in community and build strong, multifaceted, fruitful relationships in the process. What might you take away from what we have heard and shared today, from the report that we hope you will read? Which of the strategies can you begin with, even in part? Next. We are here to inspire you to join us and then to support you in every way we can. Start somewhere, say yes, begin to transform food and community. Be in touch with us, work with us, grow with us. My friend Barbara Jellison, one food service director, embarked on the CK journey with us in West Contra Costa 3 years ago, and our relationship grew from there, learning and sharing with each other. 5 weeks ago, Barbara called to see if I could help her source 120,000 pounds of organic produce for the 13,000 families she was nourishing. I was over the moon. We said yes, and she and her team made it work. She's my hero and a shining example of what can happen when we pool our superpowers to innovate and collaborate for the health of our kids and ultimately our communities. Next. I could not be more proud to introduce my friend Barbara Jellison. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. And I couldn't have a better mentor as a food service director, and so fortunate to have been able to partner with you the last 3 to 4 years. So thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It is a privilege to be here this afternoon. I'm extremely happy to be able to join. I want to thank Elizabeth for coordinating and offering this amazing webinar, because it is what I'm always looking for, that additional support to, move my program forward. So I'm the director of West Contra Costa. I'm proud to share with you our district's partnership and journey implementing Flossen with Conscious Kitchen at one of our elementary schools. I want to back to the first slide. Sorry. A little overview about West Contra Costa before we start. All of the districts are so different, each in itself. West Contra Costa, we have over 29,000 students. We have 53 schools during the regular school year, and we have a central kitchen, which was very fortunate because only one of our schools, Perry's Elementary, was able to have 100% organic program with the support of Conscious Kitchen. But because we partnered, they were in our kitchen, training and helping our staff prepare those meals. And California Thursdays, we partner with Eco Literacy also. So we're able to offer those meals on Thursdays to all of our students in our district. And we were able to do that because of our support and partnership with Conscious Kitchen. Right now with the pandemic, we also have an additional 4,000 students that attend charter schools. We normally don't provide meals to them, but at this time we are providing meals to all kids in our community. During the regular school year, 1,000 of our students are homeless. So these are the highest need kids, and feel very strongly that not only these students, but all students need to have the best that we can offer. And through our partnership, I think we have been able to improve and add to our program. We run the National School Lunch Program, breakfast and lunch at all of our 53 school sites. We have a strong supper program through the child and adult care program. So we offer snacks and suppers in the afternoon to enrichment programs. And during the summer, we've always, for the past over 40 years, had a strong seamless summer program. So we can feed the kids throughout the summer in our community. 23 of our schools are Provision 2, which means that 95% of those families qualify for the national for free and reduced meals. So, and these 23 schools are centered in only 2 of our cities. So 2 of our cities have the majority of their families over 95% qualifying for the meal program. And the other cities, they range from 5% that qualify up to 50%. So it is challenging in our district to be able to provide as much equity as possible, but the focus with Conscious Kitchen, even on one school, was allowed us to be able to promote or expand that program and offer those meals and same benefits to the rest of our students in our district. Our district is 69% free and reduced. This year, the district is challenged. Right now, we're at 60%, but I think it's because of the parents not being able to access or complete meal applications like they do normally. Our elementary schools have warming kitchens. So that was one of the biggest challenge that we had when we brought Conscious Kitchen in, and our infrastructure when it comes to equipment. But a little at a time with our vision, we have a new elementary school started, which have a walk-in, which none of our elementary schools do. Also stoves, and it's a full cooking kitchen. So when we come back, we're hoping after the pandemic to be able to expand our scratch cooked meals at more of our elementary school sites. So with the introduction of Conscious Kitchen in 17-18, we're able to start the talks with staff, families, students, and staff. I think our biggest challenge, I think it was very well received at the 2 schools that we piloted a couple of days of meals, but there was also pushback from a lot of our other schools that, they weren't able to receive the same product. I think communication and partnership is key when making changes. That was one of the biggest lessons I've learned. 18-19, when the pilot ran the full year at Perry's Elementary, we hadn't gotten an MOU with Conscious Kitchen by the start of the school year, which, we really weren't as prepared as we could have been to be able to launch Conscious Kitchen, which made it both tough on Conscious Kitchen, but also the school nutrition department. My staff didn't understand. It didn't matter, how much we explained to them. They resented the fact that others were coming in to show us. But with the perseverance of Judy Schills and the Conscious Kitchen, we're able to, train them and show them the benefits of, Flossin, the program at Perry's, and ways of expanding it to other school sites.
Barbara,
19
sorry
oh.
to jump in, but I think we want to see some of your slides
Okay,
and photos.
sorry. So our slides,
we can probably go to the next one. I think she was talking. Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that, Barbara. Oh, and now we can't hear you.
Barbara, you're on mute.
sorry about that. Okay, so just like during the regular school year when we had the support of Conscious Kitchen and developing recipes there, my staff also at the same time, along with other programs, also develop recipes for in our central kitchen so we can provide it at all of our schools. When our school district closed on March 13th, we had to reorganize everything. Because of the high need of our community, the board, the administrators, parents felt very strongly that, we had to provide meals to the community. So we came back the following Monday on the 16th. We had to bring in a meal provider. We didn't have the staff, only 5% of our staff came back that time. And then we were working on 95% volunteers. So we partnered with a meal provider whose focus was, freshly prepared meals, healthy options for them, which, was very good, especially with the amount of high need that we were seeing at our curbside sites. We started with 9 sites, 9 school sites, and provided meals there. During the summer, we've been changing our program throughout the year, but after our staff came back in April, we're able to come back into the central kitchen and start preparing more prepared meals in-house. On the slide, we can see the burritos, back one, where we prepare our rice, our beans, and our meat from scratch. We prepare salads. The granola on the slide on the right was brought in from Conscious Kitchen. So not only were they able to prepare that granola on site at Perry's, but we were able to provide that granola with our yogurt parfaits throughout the district. And even during, a time of crisis like we're finding ourselves in right now. I have just the banner that shows where we're serving now. We're serving breakfast, lunch, and snack right now. So we're invested in scratch cooked meals. It's not always possible because of the number that we're serving, but we make every effort to include those recipes in our menus. Next.
And Barbara, sorry to chime in again, but we are running a bit over time.
Okay.
I'd love to make sure we can see your participation rates
Okay.
and the power of partnerships too.
I'll speed it
And
up.
we can
I'm sorry.
ask Q&A later on. No
And
worries.
I'm available at any time. That's why I started out with the slide with my contact number. Expanding organics, I think we only did maybe 1 or 2% during our regular school year. But like Judy had mentioned, when we started moving away from individually packed meals during this time to more bulk items, such as the cauliflower and the yellow squash, we're able to bring our food costs down so we would be able to purchase organic. So that's how we transitioned from the conventional produce to the organic produce. And because of my connection with Judy and the farmers and vendors, Earl's Organics, we were able to source 14,000 items for each of our meals. So we started with fruits and vegetables, but now we're getting organic cereal from local distributor. Also, through Judy's help, we've been able to bring in crackers for our meals. Next slide. Our menus, you can see the transitions through. I mean, our focus as much as possible is on plant-based. We do always offer a vegetarian offering, not always 100% plant-based, but when we can. Also in Thanksgiving, because of the need that there is right now, I wanted to offer the families a little more than just prepackaged meals. So for Thanksgiving, we set up 2 different boxes that week that had a whole turkey, had dinner rolls, stuffing, fresh cranberries, organic potatoes, and pears. So parents could take that box home and, scratch, cook, and prepare their recipes at home. We're also coordinating with not only Conscious Kitchen, but our after school program to develop recipes so we can go along with these boxes so families can get more involved with the meal program. Next. This is our menu. This is one of our menus for tomorrow, which is going to be served curbside. We are doing enchiladas. So we have the corn tortillas, the taco and meat, enchilada sauce. We were able to source more organic product for this box. And as we move into January, we'll be continuing with the boxes and expanding our purchases of organic, just because the food cost goes down when we don't have to prepare it in-house. So right now we're focused on purchasing and working on our connections with organic companies. Next. And then engaging, just, as the ambassador program with Conscious Kitchen is just huge. Right now, we're working through social media to connect with students and families. We're using, our Facebook, Instagram, the media, and then, like I said, connecting with different nonprofits that can help us develop recipes and then add to the information that we can give our parents to better improve the meals that they're serving. Next. And for the last 9 months, I've shown the difference between school year 2019 and 2020. When the pandemic hit in March, I mean, it was slow, but we were expanding, and every month we've just seen a huge increase. There has been a dip just because of the start of the school year and the changes in the programs that we had. But since we've started in September, offering the bulk produce on the side with individually wrapped items, we've seen a gradual increase. And then last month, we almost did 1.2 million meals. And since March, we've served almost over 6 million meals. And then as we move into January, a bigger percentage of that will be organics and plant-based meals. So we're looking forward to this transition. Next. And we wouldn't be able to do it. This transformation can't be done without the support of partners. So everybody's buy-in. We wouldn't have been able to do it with our partnership during the years that Conscious Kitchen was working at Perry's, and the same thing since the pandemic hit. Our meal program and the number of meals that we serve our families wouldn't be what it is today without our partnerships. So thank you very much for the time.
Great, and we'll jump ahead to the next slide, Bianca, please. Thank you so much, Barbara. That was great to hear what's happening for you on the ground. We are eager to hear from our other school districts on today's call how this information has resonated with you. So we're going to break into small group discussions of about 5 to 6 people right now. Unfortunately, we're a little bit limited on time, so we're only going to have about 5 minutes for you guys to huddle and just to think through which one of these strategies from both Judy and Barbara's presentation that was most exciting to you, that you think is going to really make an awesome impact for your community, that you can maybe implement 1 or 2 strategies, or which of the 1 or 2 strategies could you maybe try to implement in your community. So you see here that we have questions listed, and then when you return, we'd love for you to share back through the whiteboard or in the chat with what your group's main discussion was, and we'll return at 3:34. So you can join your breakout rooms now, and we'll come back then.
Sorry, I guess I took all the speaking.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is exciting. I had a great discussion, so I hope everyone else did too. So I'd love to get our whiteboard back up, and if we can have folks either share on that whiteboard through annotation a main takeaway that you had with your group, or add it in the chat as well. And I still see our small group discussion slide up. There we go. All right, looks like it's got cleared. So we'll just take a couple minutes for folks to share out as we get readjusted back to the main room. So yeah, and you can also chat. You can also put it in the chat box if that's easier for you. I know the annotation can be a bit tricky, but you go to view options at the top of your screen and then you click annotate and it will allow you to add items. All right, thank you, Rebecca, for sharing. All right, and one of the things that I heard from the school districts on my session were having product availability, and then DoD Fresh having organic options. Those are two big needs that my school district shared, or that I was speaking with. Awesome. This is great, everyone. Thank you for adding. If we can keep getting some added here. Awesome. And so keep adding it to the chat. We'll go back to our presentation here so we can move forward and try to stay on time with our remaining topics we want to check in on. We'll go to the next slide, please. So keep adding your main takeaways in the chat box if you're able to, so we can capture those and help provide you all as much support as possible going into the future. And the next slide, Bianca, please. All right, and so wanted to give a minute to also give you the opportunity to ask Judy and Barbara if there's any burning questions. Maybe your group was like, I don't know how they're doing all the scratch cooked meals, or if there's a question that anyone would like to ask Barbara and Judy at this time, I'd like to give a minute for that. Bidding requirement, yes, Debbie. Utilize organic produce more. All right. So we're definitely going to be having more resources being shared throughout this webinar series on how you can make models like the Conscious Kitchen model and the efforts that Barbara has under possible at your school district. So as I mentioned, we're going to be having more resources shared throughout this webinar series, including an organic school food purchasing roadmap, which will actually have a product list of different vendors, food product companies, distributors that have been able to provide organic to other school districts that we've interviewed for that roadmap resource. So please join future webinars and you'll gain access to valuable resources that will address some of these main barriers that you've all shared in your small breakout room sessions. There's another poll that popped up here on if you'd like to, it's the same repeat poll. We'd love to capture anyone's contact information who's interested in being followed up on these resources. So please let us know if you're interested, and we'll make sure to check in with you and figure out how we can best support you on this journey. All right, so moving along. So please complete that poll, and then we'll go on to our next slide. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Kari Hammerschlag, the Deputy Director at Friends of the Earth, who will share current funding opportunities and other opportunities to advocate on school food policy. So Kari, please take it away and tell us more.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. It's really great to be with all of you today. And I'm just going to take a very few minutes to briefly talk about funding opportunities and policy needs around increasing values-based procurement and healthy and sustainable food education in schools. I'm sure many of you in your breakout groups probably talked about the need for increased funding. And I know it's a huge need to increase the quality of school food, especially sustainable and organic procurement. So I wanted to highlight a couple of funding opportunities in the short run. Really excited that California's new Farm to School program is rolling out in March. Well, it should be out actually in January, I think, for the grant applications. It's right now in its final stage of development. And I just wanted to give you a brief preview based on the draft request for applications that CDFA shared earlier this month for comment. About it. Many of you already know about it. It's an $8.5 million grant program that will allow for more sourcing from local and organic farmers. And it's something that a number of partner organizations on the call here advocated for. NRDC, Center for Eco-Literacy, CAF, and I know several others. And it's also something that's being championed by California's first partner, Jennifer Newsom. So we're really excited about it. CDFA has proposed 2 tracks for this funding. The first one, the largest one, is the California Farm to School Innovation Grant, and that's going to be focused on reimbursing school districts for local food purchases from California farmers, including hopefully a priority for organic farmers and farmers of color. And it will also support educational needs and small percentage for kitchen equipment needs. The second track is to support broader partnerships with at least 2 school districts involved and 1 other entity. And that is to increase the availability of products that can be sold to school districts. So look for that in early January, I think. Another funding opportunity is the National Farm to School program. And I think we're going to be putting up a link. It's very time sensitive application. Whoops. Uh-oh, I think I'm having a little bit of a technical. Can you hear me okay, Elizabeth? Yeah, okay. So I think there's information in the chat about the federal program that is due January 8th applications. So now I just want to switch to the next slide to policy needs, because in order to transform school food, we need to create more resources and shift purchasing away from the large conglomerates that dominate USDA foods. If we're going to do that, it's going to really require policy change, and we need to generate more resources flowing to schools. And so we hope that in the coming year or years, we'll be working with many of you to advocate for these programs. The most important one and the most immediate one is the Farm to School program. We're going to need continued funding for that program in Gavin Newsom's budget, and we should be seeing that, and we will need to be advocating for that. We also need to advocate for more funding for school food personnel training and healthier school meals. There was money in the 2021 budget proposal from Governor Newsom on that, and we're hoping for more money in this next budget, and we'll need to be advocating for that. And then we also need to allocate for the CDFA's Specialty Crop Block Grant program to put more resources into projects that will directly benefit school meal programs. That's quite a large program from the federal, it comes from the federal government, and we could use more of that for school food programming. And then also advocating for USDA foods. Somebody in the chat asked about this. We definitely need to advocate for more organic in the USDA foods program and DoD Fresh. And then finally, we can advocate for legislation that would support values-driven procurement and healthy school food. There were several bills in 2019 that we supported on organic, plant-based foods, and stronger school nutrition standards. So these are all ways that we can advocate together for funding for school districts, and we hope that you'll join us. And I think there's going to be a poll up on your screen to ask if you're interested in working with us, and we hope that you'll respond to the poll because we would love to work with you on that. So I know that I'm probably out of time, but let's just talk really briefly about the federal policy side, because we know that federal policy is really critical. And there's important opportunities, especially this year with the Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act, which will likely be voted on. And so some of these policies include universal free meals, increased funding for kitchen equipment and farm to school programming, culinary training, and much more. And I think we'll be talking at much greater length about policy in webinar number 4. So if you're interested in kind of diving into these in more detail and learning a little bit more and talking about working together to advance these kinds of programs, we'd love for you to join webinar number 4 in February. Thanks, Elizabeth. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Kari, so much for going over that. And I know that was a lot of information, and there's a lot of challenges on the policy side that impact school food purchasing. We know USDA Foods is, a big asset that you guys use, and we could use some more options in that program. So we hope that you join on February 10th to discuss more about how we can help advocate for you on those programs. So this is a little sneak peek at January 13th webinar. I'm wrapping up things here, just one more minute. So we're going to be featuring 3 more school districts on their practices with the emphasis on organic school food, some of the meals that have worked really well for them, how they did it, how they afforded it, how they made the students love it, or the students loved it because it was delicious. So we hope that you all join us, and we're gonna add a Facebook and LinkedIn event page, or the links in the chat. Please share those throughout your network and encourage folks to attend the webinar series. Not have heard about this yet. And if you go to the next slide, please, we have our USDA professional standard credits for this webinar. We'll be providing these for all additional webinars going forward. So we hope that you'll continue to join us. The recordings and the slides will be provided. If you have any staff in your district that you would like to participate in the series and get these credit hours, we're happy to share the opportunity with them as well. Next slide, please. So that wraps it up. We hope that you learned some exciting new information that can impact your school meal program. We are happy to have you on our roster now to share upcoming resources that will help provide the support, the information that you're looking for to help take your school meal program to the next level. So we really appreciate you joining today. It's been a pleasure to have you all on the call. Happy holidays. And we look forward to seeing you in 2021. Can you believe it? So thank you, everyone. And this concludes our webinar for today, the 9th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll still be here if there's any burning questions, if people want to really ask away, but this sums it up.
I think one thing that we need to advocate for is actually raising the reimbursement for USDA school meals, because then that would allow all of us to be able to buy more organic produce. Because for those of us in California who have really high labor costs, we have hardly anything left over to spend on food. So
that is such an important issue and point that we will, on the federal side, definitely be working on.
Yeah, I clicked yes. I can help you with that. I've done a lot of work with Senator Mike McGuire on school meal advocacy. So
nice. Where are you based?
In San Rafael in Marin County.
Great.
Right by Judy.
Yeah.
But here, I'll put my email and stuff in the chat, and then if you want to work on that.
Thank you, Lori, for sharing that. I know I want to bring to light a note that one of the staff from San Diego Unified shared earlier, where she said, if we can help advocate this information to our communities as well, so that they can participate more in the school meal program, and then provide additional funds that way to help buy more organic produce and organic food products. So there's that strategy as well, to definitely note that school districts would appreciate hearing. If they're going to serve their community organic food products, they want to make sure they know so that they can participate and get those additional as well that way. But absolutely, what you're saying is on point.
I'm going to hang up because I have one more Zoom today, but thank you for everything. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, Lori.
Bye.
Yeah, take care.
Are there any other burning? Bye.
I just want to say thank you. It's Judy, the Friends of the Earth, you guys. This was beautifully done. Kendra and Kari, I don't even know how to say thank you for what you did. So just know how grateful I am, and let's rock the world.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank-
That was an awesome presentation.
And thank you to your team of amazingness too. Everybody did a great job.
Thank you, Judy.
Bye,
I
Bianca and
appreciate you. Thanks.
Emma, great. Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Judy.
Take care. I think
All
we're
right,
almost
partic-
down to our team, almost.
Yeah, looks like we're down to 10, so I think we're good to wrap it up. And we have it recording, so we'll need to close out so we can share this with future folks.
Great.
All right.
Nice
So
work,
bye,
you
everyone.
guys.
Right.
Thank you.